Although there now exists a variety of ways to take digital notes, including the use of Evernote, SimpleNote, EasyBib Notebook, and Questia's private notes, many teachers still expect students to take notes on paper. At Sunapee Middle High School, where research is guided by focus questions, teachers expect students to take notes on what we've called focus question information sheets. Here's a blank info sheet. And here's an example of note-taking completed on a focus question information sheet. I will review this example in order to show the basics of what teachers expect. At the top of this info sheet, you should write out your primary research question. Beneath that, you write out the specific focus question you are researching. You can see that the words focus question are enlarged, which indicates that the focus question is the focus of this info sheet. Before I look at the format of the actual notes on this sheet, let me remind you that you can find a review of focus questions on Step 2 of the Research Paper Steps page. Okay, I'm now going to look at this example. Below your focus question, you see a two-column table where paraphrases and quotations get listed on the left, and the source of the paraphrase or quote gets listed on the right. Paraphrasing and quoting are explained in another video tutorial, but for now you simply need to know that a quote is information you've taken word for word from a source, and a paraphrase is information you've put in your own words. There are basically two requirements to keep in mind when using this information sheets. First, any quotes that you put on your information sheet must be enclosed within quotation marks. The other requirement is all information must be associated with its source. On this sheet, the following focus question is being answered. Which British political policy caused the most widespread outrage among colonial Americans? This focus question, when answered, will help answer the primary research question, what was the most important cause of the American Revolution? I'm going to read the first note. In response to the Intolerable Acts, the First Continental Congress created a program of retaliation called the Continental Association, which was a system of boycotting British goods. This first note is a paraphrase. You can see that there are no quotation marks around these sentences. This information, in other words, was put into the student's own words. They are not the student's own ideas, though, and that is why a source needs to be associated with the note. In this case, the information comes from a source identified as Gross, page 58. The word Gross here is the last name of an author whose book or article the student is using for research. For the purpose of saving time, all of the sources identified in the source column are normally abbreviated, but the full source information is documented elsewhere. I will show you the full source information at the end of this video, but for now, let's look at a little more of this information sheet. The second note is also a paraphrase, but this information came from a website. You can see that in the source column, the website and the specific article or page of the website is listed. The website is america.gov, and the article is entitled The Road to Independence. The source is listed this way because this article has no author. That is quite common with website articles. When the author appears on a website, you use the title of the article and the website name to identify the source. The third note on this sheet is a quote, and it comes from page 325 of a book or article authored by an individual named Thorpe. The student has likely chosen to quote Thorpe because this particular sentence is very powerful. In other words, the author has said something in a way that is especially useful in answering the focus question. In this case, the author has provided an expert opinion, and the student wants to perhaps include that when writing the research paper. On page 325, Thorpe says, "Instead of restoring royal authority, the Acts united the colonists behind the Boston Radicals." This appears to be a good quote, and it seems like the student made a good decision to include this on these notes. Looking at the remainder of this information sheet, you see that the student paraphrase some ideas from Thorp's page 325, and then at the end paraphrased and quoted a source identified as Ferling. Now remember, the sources are all abbreviated in this column, but the full source information must be kept somewhere by the student. At Sunapee Middle High School, students use a website product called EasyBib for keeping track of their sources. So in this case, the student should have the full source information for Gross, America.gov, Thorpe, and Ferling inside EasyBib. Let's see what that looks like. Among the projects listed within the student's EasyBib account is one titled American Revolution. After clicking on the bibliography link, you see that the student has entered the full source information. The name Ferling on the student's notes refers to an article by John Ferling entitled Myth of the American Revolution, which comes from the magazine Smithsonian that the student accessed through the Masterfile Premier database. You can see that the other authors are Robert Gross and D. Thorpe, and that their information sources are books, one titled The Minutemen in Their World, and the other titled Colonial America. The other source listed in this bibliography is a web article with no specific author. The Road to Independence is the title of the article, and it appears in a site named America.gov archive, published by the U.S. Department of State. Instructions on how to use EasyBib can be found in another video tutorial. This brings to an end this video tutorial on note-taking using focus question information sheets. Good notes are essential to producing a good paper. Hopefully this video has helped you understand how to take accurate and useful notes.